What's good, Patrick Warburton? I'm your guide Q, and today we're looking at this askreddit thread, Girls That Gave the Nice Guy a Chance, How Did It Go? Okay, so two main things about this thread. There are quite a few posts like this one that are like people met an actual nice guy that wasn't like putting on a front and was actually just chill. Like, I'll read this person's story. Met a nice guy on Tinder. He was really awkward with few social skills, but he had a really cute dog, so I figured why not. The entire first 2 months of the relationship, I was terrified thinking I was being gaslit because he was just so nice. I had a history of abusive relationships. 2 years later, we are engaged, just closed on 8.5 acres of land, and discovered we are pregnant last night. He's still really awkward, and his dog is still really cute. So that's just wholesome and nice, and that's one of the kind of stories that was posted a lot in this thread, but for every story like that, there is a 1-to-1 ratio of like the worst thing imaginable happening to another human. I'm talking like attempted unaliving of another human being, kidnapping, like stuff that's just way too heavy. So I'm gonna be covering kind of like the middle ground between the perfect positive outcome and like the actual federal crimes outcome. Regardless of how many times I said I wasn't interested in a relationship, he continued making moves and flirting, telling me how he wanted to spend the rest of his life with me and that we were soulmates. He told me he was having a rough home life and that I was the only one in the world who didn't think he was creepy for the way he looked or would give up on him. Nobody ever said that he was ugly. He would constantly ask if he was handsome or not, and he was not bad looking at all, just lacking some hygiene skills, like wearing deodorant and showering regularly, and dental care. He seemed really insecure about the way that he looked, to the point where the insecurity became the most noticeable thing about the way that he carried himself. No amount of compliments or reassurance would soothe him. I showed up for his football games and performances to support him, and he never showed up for my plays or finished small tasks that I asked him as a friend to complete. Whenever addressed, he would break down and say that he was the worst person in the world and that he would die for me. He eventually stopped talking to me and moved on to somebody else. I feel horrible for whoever that somebody else is, but congratulations to you. I honestly think that he needed more attention and love from his parents and was using the desire for a girlfriend to fill the emotional gap. I feel bad for him, but I'm glad to have some distance. Bruh, this is gonna sound so harsh, but I feel like it needs to be. So first off, you do not need to feel bad for this guy. Like, at least you're not obligated to. It's perfectly nice to be sympathetic towards him. But I legitimately feel we should teach this behavioral pattern in schools so that people can avoid it like the plague. Like this set of behaviors, like, oh, you're the only one in the world who doesn't think I'm creepy. Like, that could be a legitimately true statement because he's worn down every friend or acquaintance he's had by constantly forcing them to validate his existence, his attractiveness, whatever it might be. Like, no person can handle having to fight with you day in and day out because you constantly shit on yourself. And then when they do give you criticism, you're not just going to agree with them. You have to double down on it and say you're the worst person in the world. Like, this is just a terrible set of behaviors and will not get you anywhere. Like, it will only make people dislike you. Ooh, spent most of 2020 into 2021 dating a nice guy. Dude traumatized me. He spent the first couple weeks of our relationship basically downloading my personality to reflect back to me so that I'd be like, oh my god, we're the same person, and hopefully fall in love. The nice guy act was a cover for a tendency to narcissistically manipulate me, and an even bigger cover for his debilitating mental health issues. After being abused for a year, almost to the day, I finally broke up with him, and now I'm dating an actually nice guy. The difference is that the first guy's niceness was a fucking ploy. Actually nice men don't need to be overly nice at first. So this one includes a couple really important red flags to look out for. Oh my god, everything's a red flag. But like, this whole reflecting your personality right back at you thing is, in my opinion, a sign of like two main types of people. One is a person who's just not confident in their own personality at all, so just wants to use yours to be as agreeable as possible, and the other is just somebody who's trying to straight up manipulate you and think that this is the easiest in. And the other one might seem really obvious, like the guy who says that he's nice but isn't actually nice, but this could also be differentiated by, like, you know, complex social cues of somebody pretending to be nice and pretending to exhibit those nice behaviors, but it doesn't match their actual intentions. And I feel like that is something where if it doesn't feel right, if it seems like things aren't adding up, you might want to look into that more. Alright, this one's a little bit on the more serious side, just at the end with a threat. He became very clingy very quickly. He would text me at stupid hours and get mad when I didn't reply. I would wake up with the same texts on WhatsApp, Facebook, and normal messages, followed by, "Why are you ignoring me? I thought you liked me," frowny face. I failed exams because he wanted to spend every waking hour with me, and I just couldn't study. He would get offended when I wanted to have time alone. Every time I would tell him to tone it down, he thought it was because I didn't love him enough. That's fucking so cringe, bro. Every time. It's such a shame because we were such good friends before that. After we broke up, he turned all of our mutual friends against me. I spent a lot of my college years blaming myself because maybe I was a rude bitch to him, maybe I should have been nicer. It was fucked up, man. Edit, I also forgot to mention that a few weeks in, he told me he'd swim in lava in Minecraft if I ever broke up with him. What a wonderful person. I feel like the craziest part to me about this one is it's such a shame because we were such good friends before that, like kind of implying that there weren't any signs of this when they were friends. It would be so nice if, like, when someone was applying to be your partner, you could just get a little vision into what they acted like in their relationship, because so much of this stuff that's bad and red flaggy happens behind closed doors, so you, like, don't know that that person does that until you're in the relationship scenario. Just a nightmare. Oof, this one is rough. He was lovely. I met him when I was taking art classes at a college. He was doing the class as a second subject as he needed more qualifications to go to university. We had a really lovely first year together. I met his family and they were also really nice people until he failed the exam and I didn't. When he got his results at the same time as me, he went ballistic and said in anger, "Why do I always have to settle for second choice?" And I said that's not true, but I didn't get time to finish what I was going to say. He interrupted with, "Don't think you were even my second choice. You were just available and no wonder why. You're defective, so I could be certain no one was going to try and take you away from me. I have a disability," and he was a nasty, jealous little bastard underneath that nice exterior. Edit. Wow, this really took off and so many lovely people have taken the time to send supportive messages. Thank you all so much. A few more details if you are interested in a bit more. I am profoundly deaf from birth. Use hearing aids now, but they are only to boost what small capacity I have to hear some sounds, and my main communication outside the internet is lip reading and BSL. This is why my punctuation/spelling and sometimes grammar can be hard to read. I have to remember all the rules without much of an auditory prompt, see when people naturally pause in speech, my brain is still trying to catch up with the lip shape, so commas and things are curious little additions to me. I do try, though, and appreciate any direct comments if I've made something totally unreadable or turned a good point into a mess of bad punctuation. Now, more about the situation. I think he was a deeply competitive person, more so than I realized. It was hidden from me for a year because he didn't regard me in any way as competition. He was only doing the art classes for the qualification to add those he needed for his chosen subject. Then suddenly he failed and I of all people passed. Perhaps to him I went in that instant from girlfriend, disabled, passive, and no threat to his self-esteem, to winner of the exam race and total threat. Anyway, it taught me something about how deceptive people can be, and a bit about attitudes to disability, and a bit about relationships. He went off to university. It wasn't his first choice of uni, but then he didn't have the grades for that. So I just want to say right off the bat, this is way worse than just a deeply competitive person. Like, this is someone who's extremely self-interested and self-serving. Like, and if I had to guess, like, mind read at what caused this abrupt switch, I think that he may have entered this relationship predicated on the fact that he felt superior to you in every way. Like, it comes out that he thinks very lowly of you in some of his statements, and so when he was faced with the objective reality that you were way better at something than him, it just shattered his entire reality, just like an insanely fragile ego. So the way that this is written, I have to read it in a voice, so here goes nothing. Long ago, in the time of myths and legends, when ancient heroes still roamed the earth and before Atlantis was pulled into the sea, I was the nice guy. I was the nice guy who was 100 pounds overweight, who wore hiking boots to his suburban school and paired them with cargo shorts and heavy jackets. I was the nice guy who had no social skills because I spent all of my time alone watching anime and reading Dragonlance. It's important for me to speak out to anybody reading this thread who may be wishing to do the same thing I did, that a girl would just give me a chance. That's not how it works, oh Hyperborean wanderer. That's not how it's ever worked, nor how it will ever work. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you can start taking steps towards having a normal social life. If you're anything like I was, you will fill your lack of real-life social skills with social interactions you absorb from fiction. That guy is rejected at first, but has to win her over. Or she doesn't know the guy exists, and he has to perform some grand gesture to attract her attention. Or she isn't interested, so he has to convince her to give him a chance. These tropes feel real because they get played out again and again on the screen and page. But they're just like the trope of the lone master swordsman who defeats a seething horde of foes with nothing but raw skill and a bamboo reed. In real life, we know that he'd be mobbed in seconds and get shanked in the kidney by some stupid goblin, but we love the drama of it, so we give it a pass. The thing is, the rest of society already understands this about the romantic gestures in fiction. They instinctively know that these things are cute in a story, but are as fake as the lone swordsman. It's people like us who get sucked into the delusion. With no direct experience with what is real in normal human relationships, we try to reenact what we've seen work in all of the stories we've seen, read, and heard. It's logical in a way, if you consider it from our point of view. A philosopher might call it something like a Plato's cave situation. People like us are watching the shadows dance on the wall and trying to interpret the outside world through them. It doesn't really matter how or why we got to that place. The point is that these tropes are not real and will never be. If a girl isn't interested in you, she is never going to be interested in you. You can't change that. Don't try. Trying to change her mind or win her over or get her to give you a chance are overbearing actions that may in fact scare her. It's not normal and it's not okay. So while I don't think that fiction is entirely to blame for the nice guy trope existing in real life, I do think it could be like 75% of the problem, because there's just so many plots that are based around like romantic tension and that drama of one person being like vague as to whether they're interested in a certain character or not, and that other character has to constantly like earn their approval and prove themselves. Like, these things just do not happen in real life that often. Like, in 99.9% of cases, if a person's interested in you, they're going to make that clear, and therefore getting with them is going to be easy if they actually want it. It's not going to be something where like you constantly keep pushing and like they say no one time and then you try and prove that you're better than they initially expected and they eventually see you for this hero that you really are and then date you. Like, this shit is not happening. And furthermore, the trope of like the girl or guy who plays hard to get is so much more common in fiction than it is in reality. And even if you do come across someone who's playing hard to get, why would you want to waste your time on somebody who's like throwing up smoke screens around their attraction to you? Like, that's just confusing. And so if you're assuming they're playing hard to get, either one, you're wrong, or two, you should just back off regardless. If you want me to write and perform a song on the topic of your choosing, please comment it on the newest emo instrumental on my music channel. It'll be on the screen right now. I'll be selecting one of those topics at random and performing it. I'm trusting you guys a lot with this to give good ideas, but skate on to the best of your abilities. Channel members on the left, drink a lot of water, and I'll see you super soon. Peace out, Cub Scouts.